Good afternoon. We're here for 5 Minute Friday from the headquarters of the Prichard Committee Student Voice Team with Andrew Brennen, student co-founder of the Prichard Committee Student Voice Team now 7 years ago, Andrew?
Yeah, a long time ago.
A long time ago. Andrew, tell us about your time at the Prichard Committee, developing the Prichard Committee Student Voice Team's work and what that was like for you as an engaged student at that point in time.
Yeah, well, I first came around the Prichard Committee Student Voice Team, or actually the Prichard Committee just at the time, after being involved with the Kentucky YMCA for a number of years. They have their youth in government programs where young people get the opportunity to learn about the process of government and about democracy. And so,
now, that's not CUNA, is that KYA?
Well, that's KYA and CUNA, all of them.
Okay.
And it was great. It was a great learning opportunity, but the Prichard Committee provided the space to kind of take it from the mock legislative situation to dealing with actual policy, and so that was real world. And so that opportunity was just was enthralling to me. The Prichard Committee itself has this history of engaging stakeholders and community members in the process toward kind of building better Kentucky schools. And the question that me and some other students were trying to answer at the time was, okay, so how can we do this in a way to bring students along as part of that effort? And so that was kind of the birth of the Student Voice Team. And what was so great is that everyone involved with the Prichard Committee kind of got it right off the bat intuitively that, yeah, having these young, energetic stakeholders who are spending 35 hours a week in the classroom already is enlisted in the fight to improve Kentucky schools is a no-brainer. So that's kind of how I first got involved, and since then it's been incredible.
At that time we really kind of saw it as the missing piece.
Yeah.
So students were clearly the missing piece in the conversation.
Yeah, and the impact that I think young people can have on conversations around improving schools, I mean, I think it speaks for itself just based on what we've been able to accomplish through the Student Voice Team. I mean, I think that it was, perhaps not only a missing piece for the Prichard Committee, but maybe even a missing voice in this kind of broader debate.
Without a doubt, the Prichard Committee Student Voice Team and your leadership, Andrew, was at the forefront of a national movement of student voice. Mm-hmm. And so you were providing really proof of concept, I think, with students 7 years ago that it was possible.
Well, I think it was the instinct that, if we wanted to change something about this system, we, through the Student Voice Team, travel across the state, speaking with students of all shapes and sizes. And we always start by asking students, what can you tell us about your schools that you think the adults in your school building aren't aware of or don't know? And they have a lot to say, because turns out when you spend 35 hours a week in the classroom, when you outnumber adults in the building 20-1, you pick up on some things and you can identify areas where improvements, maybe are necessary. So, people always ask me, Andrew, you first got involved with this work when you were a junior in high school. I just graduated from college last week.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Graduate of the University of North Carolina.
Yes, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, with a major in political science. But people always ask me, why are you still involved with this work? So you're not even a student anymore. And what I say is, well, first of all, I never viewed the responsibility of contributing to the effort to improve Kentucky schools as one that only fell to me because I was a student. I viewed it as a responsibility that every citizen has in a public society and in a democracy with public institutions. But in terms of the Student Voice Team in particular, I never viewed it as just a club for young people. I mean, the idea of empowering youth is a responsibility that should fall to everyone and in a society, and something that everyone can be a part of, even if you're no longer a student. So I am thrilled to continue to be a part of the Student Voice Team in the work that the Prichard Committee is doing.
And through your college years, you availed yourself of a variety of opportunities to, again, lift student voice across the nation and to be part of citizen engagement and conversations.
Yeah.
So share a few of those opportunities.
Well, I think that I approached everything throughout college with, I think, a basic premise that for institutions to work, for groups to be able to be useful to improve society, they have to be inclusive, and they have to involve as many stakeholders as possible, whether that's students being involved with the Prichard Committee, or students of color, people of color being more involved in institutions that are historically dominated by white people. I think that every single moment I've kind of acknowledged the fact that finding the voice that's least heard is the best way to instigate change. So as I've done work with the Obama Foundation, and I've done work with McKinsey and Company, Bully Pulpit Interactive, which is a PR company in DC, and at every step of the way it was, how can I bring the lessons learned, the stakeholder engagement lessons, the inclusiveness lessons, the equity lessons learned from my time with the Student Voice team and with the Prichard Committee to kind of strengthening these institutions as well. But I do think that the model that the Prichard Committee brings to bear in Kentucky, a model that's premised on public's involvement and responsibility for supporting public schools. I think it's something that could be taken anywhere, and something that I view now as being almost like a universal truism.
So now, as you were engaged as a high school student here in Fayette County in Kentucky, and you continued your engagement both with the Student Voice team as well as with national student voice efforts through college.
Yeah.
Now you've graduated.
Yes.
You're a card carrying post-secondary graduate.
College graduate, as young people call it.
College graduate. Now you look back to Kentucky, and you hear about the work that we're trying to do around the Groundswell Initiative, and you're a Prichard Committee member.
Yeah.
So what is your hope for the Groundswell Initiative, and how would you define success?
That's a good question. I think that Kentucky has a long history in education and reform and school improvement. I think that with the Kentucky Education Reform Act of the 90s, I think a lot of the effort was to do away with the notion, thank God for Mississippi, and I think we've really made a lot of great progress. I mean, we've made huge strides in in high school graduation, huge strides in ACT scores and student voice. I mean, as you mentioned, we're looked to nationally as thought leaders in this space. And so in terms of what I would hope can come out of the Groundswell Initiative is a realization that in order for us to make it even to that next level, where we can really be a national, not only thought leader, but show what's possible in rural communities and in communities of color, I think it's going to require everyday people who aren't in school, people who aren't necessarily students, people who maybe aren't even directly connected to a school in their communities to do their part, to step up and to realize that these institutions require our engagement in order to flourish, and that when they do, it can bring huge returns on the investment for our state and for our community, and we need that. I mean, in 2019, with the way everything is going with technology and with our economy and society, we need to be on the forefront. And it takes a demand from constituents, from people, to kind of hold our elected officials accountable for that. So my hope from the Groundswell Initiative is that it provides a platform or an opportunity or and opening a conversation starter even for people to figure out what role are they going to play individually in helping to improve our public schools in the state. And it takes all of us.
And feeling some responsibility for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. So, Andrew, I know one of these days, this 5-Minute Friday, we're going to say, we remember when Andrew's running for some office in Kentucky or even nationally.
Yeah.
It's going to be our honor to be able to hold that 5-Minute Friday video up and say, we knew him when.
I hope to anyone running for office that education and the way to improve education, the way to achieve equity in education should be at the forefront of the agenda. It really should. And that's what I vote on, and that's what I encourage other people to vote on.
Great. Andrew, thank you so much for all your work on behalf of this organization and lifting student voices to be part of this conversation.
Thank you.
We wish you the best of luck as you move forward.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you.